Congratulations, you just found the number one over 50 health and wellness podcast on the planet. Hello and welcome to the Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm your host, Kevin English. I'm a healthy aging expert and founder of The Silver Edge, and I am on a mission to help men and women just like you build lean, strong, healthy, amazing, capable bodies that they love for the rest of their lives. All right, folks, let's start here with the question. Do you actually need a coach to lose fat after 50? Because if you go online, you're going to hear two very different answers. You're going to hear some people say, you definitely don't need a coach. You can figure it out yourself. Just be more disciplined. And technically, you can do this on your own, just to be clear. You can piece together workouts. You can Google nutrition advice. There's no shortage of advice out there. You can try different plans until something clicks, something works. But here's a better question. How long have you been trying? Is it a few months, a few weeks, or is it a few years, or maybe even a decade of starting, stopping, and starting over again? Because at some point, it's not about whether you can do it alone, it's about whether doing it alone is actually working. And more importantly, what is it costing you to stay stuck? Not in terms of weight, but in energy, in confidence, and how you feel in your own body. So in today's episode, I want to break this down honestly and it's as impartially as I possibly can. Obviously, as a coach who sells coaching programs, I am a little bit biased, but I don't want to give you guys hype. I don't want to give you a sales pitch here. I just want to give you the truth about coaching, specifically in our age demographic, who it's for, who it's not for, and when it actually makes sense. Because for the right person, this can be the thing that finally makes everything click. All right, folks, that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's jump into it. Now, before we go any further, I want to say this right up front. If you're skeptical about coaching, good. I think that's a good thing. Seriously, it means you're thinking. It means you're not just throwing money at the next shiny thing and jumping from program to program. And it means you've probably been around long enough to know there's a whole lot of noise out there. Because let's keep it real here. The fitness industry hasn't exactly made this very easy, has it? Because we've seen promises that sound too good to be true because, spoiler alert, because they are, programs that overpromise and underdeliver, coaches who disappear after you sign up, and tons of these one-size-fits-all plans that don't fit your life. So yeah, being skeptical, that's the smart move. You should question it. You should ask, hey, is this actually worth it? Is this going to work for me? Is this going to work for me where I am currently in my life? Is this just going to be another thing that I'm going to spend some money on and then quit, right? Those are the right questions because coaching isn't something you should jump into blindly. It's something that you should understand. And that's exactly what I want to talk to you guys about today because we're going to try and take the emotion out of it and look at this rationally, look at this clearly. Because when you understand what coaching actually is and what it isn't, or let me back up. When you understand what good coaching actually is and what it isn't, it becomes a whole lot easier to decide if it's something that makes sense for you or not. So here's the shift that I think changes how we should probably look at this. Like I said, I think I probably said this the last couple of weeks in a row. I don't think you need more information. I think what you need is perspective. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you're tuning into a podcast titled The Over 50 Health and Wellness Show. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say you're probably listening to other health-related podcasts. You probably already know a lot. I think that's a fantastic thing. You probably know that you should be strength training. You probably know that you should be eating better. You probably know that you must stay consistent in order to have these long-term results. None of that should be new information to any of you out there listening to this. So I don't think the problem is that you don't know what to do. I think the problem is that you can't always see what's missing when you're inside your own situation. So think about it like this. You're in the middle of your own routine, your own habits, your own patterns. And from your perspective, it feels like, man, I'm doing a lot right and I'm trying and I'm making an effort and wow, I'm putting in the work. And that's probably true. But here's the truth. There's blind spots, almost always, small things that are off, but big enough to keep you stuck. So maybe you're under eating, and yeah, I'm talking to some of you that are trying to lose weight. Perhaps your problem is you're under eating, or maybe your training isn't progressive. Maybe your week doesn't have a realistic structure. Maybe you're changing things way too often, and you can't always see that clearly on your own. Now, that's not a flaw. That's just how it works. You can't read the label from inside the bottle, right? I can't remember where I heard that, but I think that's a fantastic way of looking at this. And what coaching provides isn't magic. In fact, I would say anybody who has a proprietary magic formula for secret fat loss, that you run from that coach as fast as you can, but rather it's perspective. I think that's what good coaching is. Someone who can step back and say, here's what's working, here's what's off, and here's what we're going to tweak. Here's what we're going to fix first. And when you have that clarity, you can stop guessing. You can stop spinning your wheels. You can start moving forward with intention on the things that matter. So not so much more information, but better perspective. I think that's one of the big things that a good coach would actually bring. So now let's just take a minute. I'm going to talk about who coaching is not for, because I think this part matters as well. Coaching isn't for everyone, and it probably shouldn't be. So if you're someone who is already consistent week to week and you're seeing steady progress and you're feeling confident in what you're doing right now, you probably don't need a coach unless you have very extreme goals. Or maybe you're somebody who enjoys figuring things out on your own. You like experimenting, you like making progress while you're doing it. I say keep going. I love the idea of self-experimentation. Seriously, you don't need to fix what isn't broken. Also, another person who probably doesn't need coaching, this should be pretty obvious, is if you're not ready to actually follow a plan or to follow through on a plan, if you're not willing to make the changes that are necessary, and if you're just looking for more information without action, no surprise here. Coaching isn't going to help that, because coaching's only going to work if you're a willing client, let's say, if you're willing to implement. Coaching isn't about doing the work for you. It's about guiding you so that your effort actually pays off. So if you're already dialed in, making progress and enjoying the process, you probably don't need coaching. But if that's not you, and for most people it isn't, then this is where things get interesting, right? When we start to talk about, well, okay, who is coaching is for? Who's the ideal candidate to invest in coaching for themselves? Because this is where a lot of you guys are going to see yourselves. Coaching is for the person who is trying, but not getting the results they know they should be getting. In other words, this is for the person that cares. This is the person that's invested. This is for the person who is trying, but maybe frustrated. Maybe you're plateaued, or maybe you're even going backwards. So you're putting in the effort and you know you're doing some things right, but you're just not seeing the progress that you should, or not consistently. And coaching is also for the person who keeps starting over. A lot of our clients are famous at this, right? They start out, they're motivated, they got that willpower. Let's go. It's Monday. I'm starting my new diet, my new workout, whatever. So, they follow the plan, and then life gets busy and things fall apart, and then they reset again. So that's another person, that's another avatar, right? Coaching is for the person who kind of feels stuck in the middle. Not completely off track, but not really moving forward or progressing the way they want either. Just maybe kind of spinning their wheels, feeling stuck. That's another very common avatar of people that would be good candidates for coaching. Coaching is for the person who isn't sure what to fix. They've probably heard conflicting advice, different advice. They've tried different approaches, and now they're thinking, well, should I eat less? Should I eat more? Should I do more cardio? Should I do less cardio? Should I lift more? What's the biggest bang for my buck here? So those people aren't lacking effort. They're just lacking clarity. And then coaching is for the person who wants structure and accountability. This is a big one, right? Not someone yelling at you, not someone shaming you. You're not 19 in boot camp here, but someone who helps you to stay on track and adjust when needed and keep moving forward when life gets messy. Maybe give you a little kick in the butt when you need it, and a little hand up when you need it. So if you're listening to this episode, you're kind of nodding your head thinking, yeah, okay, maybe that's me. Then there's a good chance you're exactly who coaching is for. Not because you can't do this alone, but because doing it alone isn't working the way you want it to. Does that land with anybody? So now let's shift and talk about what you're actually paying for with coaching, because this is where the rubber hits the road. Coaching isn't free, typically, at least good coaching isn't, because this is where a lot of people get it wrong. They think they're paying for like a workout plan or a meal plan or a list of things to do. And look, those things are table stakes. And if that's all it was, you'd be right to question it. I'm going to guess you can go on ChatGPT right now and say, write me a workout plan for over 50, write me a meal plan for over 50, write me a list of things I should do for over 50 to lose weight, whatever. And it's going to spit a bunch of things out, right? Now, I would question the validity of what it spits out, but all the information in the world is at your fingertips in this day and age, right? So you can find all that information for free. But when you pay for coaching, what you're really paying for is something very different. You're paying for clarity and structure and accountability. You're paying for someone to look at your situation and say, okay, here's what matters. Here's what doesn't. Let's focus on this. No more guessing, no more second guessing. You just have clarity. You know what's important and you know what's a priority. When you pay for coaching, you're also paying for structure, for a blueprint, for a roadmap, a plan that actually fits your life, not an ideal version of your life, but your actual real life. Something you can follow on your busiest, craziest, hectic week, not just on your best week. When you pay for coaching, you're also paying for feedback because no plan works perfectly forever, doesn't work great in a vacuum. You're going to need adjustments. You're going to need some course corrections. You're going to need some small tweaks that keep moving things forward. And most people don't know when or how to make those subtle adjustments on their own. When you pay for coaching, you're paying for accountability. This is a big one. You're not paying for pressure or guilt, just someone who is in your corner saying, hey, let's go. You got this. Stay with it. You're closer than you think. Let's fix this. Let's make these tweaks. Let's keep going. And maybe most importantly, when you pay for coaching, what you're really paying for is speed. Not in the sense of rushing results, because if you listen to this podcast for any amount of time, you know that's not our jam. I don't want to promise you you're going to lose 20 pounds in the next 20 days, anything ridiculous like that. But when I say that you're paying for speed and not in the sense of rushing results, but I'm talking about in the sense of not wasting years of doing trial and error. That's really what you're paying for, because that's what most people are doing. They're trying something, they're hoping it works, and then they're starting over when it doesn't or when it stalls over and over and over again. And coaches help compress that good line, or I should say, good coaches compress that timeline. It helps you get to what actually works for you in your situation faster. So no, you're not paying for information. You certainly aren't paying for any secret information. Again, anybody who tells you they have a top secret proprietary fat loss plan that nobody else knows, that's BS. Your BS meter should go off right away. That's not really a thing. The human metabolism has been very well studied for decades on end. We have really good science supporting what works, what doesn't. Spoiler alert, it's the boring, simple things that work, not the flashy, crazy, super secret berries from the Amazon. They're not going to burn fat while you sleep. Sorry. But what you are paying for is that clarity and that structure and that feedback, that accountability and that acceleration. And when you look at coaching through that lens, I think it's a completely different conversation. So speaking of different conversation, let's kind of flip this. Let's flip the script. Let's flip this question for a second about should I invest in coaching? So instead of asking, hey, should I invest in a coach or is coaching worth it? Ask yourself this. What is it costing you to stay where you are right now, to stay stuck? Now, if that answer is, I like where I am right now, coaching's not for you. If you're somebody who says, I'm miserable being stuck, I've been stuck for years or the last decade or for however long, then let's talk about that, because there is a cost to staying stuck, and I think it's not always obvious. It's not just about the number on the scale. It's the energy. It's feeling tired more often than you should. It's dragging yourself through your workouts or maybe even skipping them altogether. It's the confidence, not feeling as strong, not feeling as capable, not quite feeling like yourself. It's that mental load, thinking about what you should be doing and then feeling guilty for not doing it and then starting over again and again and again, feeling like you're always trying, maybe you're always failing and maybe never quite getting there. And I think that's a big cost. That takes a toll on us. And then maybe the biggest cost of all is your time. Right? Weeks turn into months of trying. Months turn into years of trying. Years of, I'm going to get back on track. I'm going to start fresh next week with this brand new program. I just need to figure this out. And then before you know it, a lot of time has passed without any of the progress that you wanted. So that's the real cost. It's not the money. It's the time. It's the energy. It's the momentum. And here's the truth. People don't stay stuck because they want to. They stay stuck because they just don't have the clarity on what to change. So they keep on doing the best they can, maybe with incomplete information, and that cycle continues over and over and over again. So this isn't about pressure. This is about perspective, because once you see that cost, the cost of staying stuck where you are, I think it's easier to make a decision about what it's worth to finally move forward. So let's pause here for a second and just do a honest check-in here. So no pressure, no judgment. We're going to meet ourselves exactly where we are with self-love. I want to ask you a few questions here. How long have you been trying to figure this out on your own? Has it been days, weeks? Has it been months, years? How many times have you started over with a new plan, maybe new motivation, with the same outcome? And where are you right now? Are you making steady progress, or are you still trying to connect all the dots? And then you guys know I love this question. If nothing changed, if you kept doing exactly what you're doing right now for the next 90 days, what would that look like? Would you be closer to your goal, or do you think it'd be more of the same? And then here's the big question. Do you actually need more information, or maybe do you just need clarity on what to do next? Because those are two very different things. Now, look, again, there's no right or wrong answer here. I just want you to answer honestly in your heart. Again, meet yourself with self-love right where you are. But there are honest answers here. And once you're clear on those, the next step becomes easier for you to see. So let's start to wrap this up. Here's what I want to leave you with here today. I think you can do this alone. I honestly do. Again, I'm a coach who makes his living selling coaching programs. I think you can do this alone. I think you can figure it out. I think you can keep experimenting, and you can keep trying different approaches until something works. Heck, this is going to be episode 400 and something of this episode. If you went back to episode 1, listen to every single one of them, all of the information that you need to lose fat, build muscle, be a strong, amazing badass, whatever you want is there. Right? There's nothing stopping you. But you don't have to do that. That's a very different mindset. Some of you guys out there, you just love the DIY, you're do-it-yourselfers, you love the self-experimentation. Some of you've got this figured out. Good for you. Keep going and share that with other people. I would go on to add. But for a lot of people, I think asking for help feels like weakness. It feels like failure. It feels like, why can't I figure this out on my own? How hard can this be, for crying out loud? I'm just trying to go on a diet. Like maybe needing guidance means somehow that you failed somewhere. But that's not how this works. Strong people ask for help. Smart people use it because they understand something that most people don't. Getting results isn't about proving you can do it the hard way. I think that's a horrible way of trying to get the results. But it's about doing it efficiently, doing what actually works. And if you've been stuck, if you've been trying, if you've been putting in the effort without getting the return you want, there's nothing wrong with getting clarity. There's nothing wrong with speeding up the process, because at the end of the day, this is not about pride. It's about your health. It's about your energy. It's about your confidence. It's about the quality of your life today and for the rest of your life, right? You can do this alone, but you don't have to. And for most people, that's the decision that I think changes everything. So if you've been listening to this and thinking, yeah, this is me. I'm guilty. I've been trying. I do feel stuck. I'm not sure what to fix next to get the biggest bang for my fitness buck here. Well, then let's stop guessing, because at this point, you don't need another podcast episode. You don't need another plan to try on your own. You need clarity. And that's exactly what our free clarity calls are for. This is where we take everything that we've talked about, the mistakes, the checklist, the structure, and we apply it directly to you. We're going to look at what you're currently doing, where you're stuck, what's missing or misaligned, and what your next best step should be, so that you can stop spinning your wheels and start moving forward with confidence. Now, I'm going to be straight with you on this. If you're serious about changing this, don't wait. Because the people who get the best results are the ones who decide to take action. So head over to the show notes, grab the link, book your free clarity call. You guys can find that in whatever app you're listening to this on. But I want to leave you with this. I want you to honestly ask yourself, does coaching make sense for you? Not with pressure, not with obligation, not with me giving you a sales pitch. I don't even think necessarily you need to buy our coaching program. We specialize in this age demographic, and I think that is a specialization that this world needs more of. But there are other great coaching programs out there. Certainly my mentors that mentored me into where I am today, they offer wonderful coaching. But there's tons of good coaching out there. So again, not so much a sales pitch for Silver Edge, but definitely a sales pitch for you to stop and really consider. But each one of you has to ask yourself this question: is the investment in coaching worth it? Is it worth it for me to invest my money, my time, my effort into a coaching program to get the results I want? Only you can answer that. Because I honestly feel like you tuned into a podcast, again, titled Over 50 Health and Wellness Show, because you care, because you're invested in yourself, because you want to be strong and lean and capable. You want to be a badass grandma and a badass grandpa. You want to be strong and capable for the rest of your life. So there you go. That's my sales pitch for you today. Not so much our programs, but just for you to really consider, what would coaching look like for you? Would it be worth it? Would it be worth your investment? So that's what I've got for you guys this week. Until next week, stay strong. Okay, that's our show for today, folks. If you are over 50 and you feel frustrated or stuck and you want a clear plan, I invite you to book a free clarity call with me. You guys can find the link to learn more in the show notes for this episode. You can find that on whatever app you're listening to this on, or head over to silveredgefitness.com/417. As we wrap up our time together today, you can show your support for this show in two important ways. The first is tell a friend about this podcast and encourage them to give it a listen. The second is for you YouTube folks to click the like and subscribe buttons, and for you podcast folks to give this podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to podcasts on, and be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and until next time, stay strong.